Hello, everyone. It's Jennie and Laurie of Astropath, and we are here today to do the horoscope video about January 2026. Before we jump into that, check below, like us, follow us, do all those things, leave us comments. We love it. And if you are interested in a consultation or a gift certificate for a consultation or any of the other things that we offer, look below for the links. And if you're interested in natal astrology, buy and read my book. It's awesome. I actually love that book. It's so funny. I felt so weird about it when it first came out. Now I just love it. Took me a
No,
while.
well, I really like it. I remember I said this in the beginning, but I like it because I feel like I'm sitting down chatting with you. And that's really great to have that tone in a book. So, yeah, it's
And
awesome.
I love it that you said that because that's very much how it was written. It was written to my students, like,
Yeah,
here it is. So,
cool.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
the
and
thing. So, for
mhm.
now, let's jump into what is going on.
Let me just
And
add a couple things for
yes,
my I just want to say too that I'm in the process of overhauling some things in my business, and pretty soon here I'm going to have some new consultations up there to offer. So I just wanted to just say that that's in progress, and I'll let you know when that's ready, but you can check it out anytime you want. So cool.
all right,
Thanks.
cool. So, January 2026, can you believe it's 2026? Whew.
This year's being like a long time looking at, oh my goodness, because of that Saturn Neptune conjunction in February that we'll be talking about down the road in some other videos, but not in this one really.
Right.
Just a
Not in
touch
this
in
one.
this one, not much.
No.
But I think the keynote here that I know Lori and I want to talk about is what it is to be in that transition from Capricorn to Aquarius. Like
Mm.
it's kind of a funny one. So I don't know. Do you want to kick that off, Lori? What do you think about it? How does it
Well,
work?
it is interesting because in traditional astrology, both Capricorn and Aquarius are ruled by Saturn.
Hmm.
So they have a similarity in that they are both very serious about what they're serious about, right?
Yeah.
And they both really require, yeah, they require a lot of determination and seriousness. I'm going to
Hmm.
overuse that word. But, Capricorn is the earth sign and Aquarius is the air sign. We are moving from a place of trying to a place of ambition to a place of creative intellect.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
yeah, Aquarius brings us into a very different realm because it is of the intellect, high intellect.
Hmm. Yeah, that's good. I think maybe thinking about the transition from earth to air is a helpful, simple way of thinking about it too, because earth is so tangible, it's concrete. You can think of even just like a pile of dirt or a foundation or something that you can touch and, push on. And then air just like whips that all up into this totally imaginative realm where you don't have to have things being all perfectly tangible. You're allowed to have things be intangible, and it's the thought space. So you get to imagine much more than you do with the earth realm. And then in turn, the earth is sort of saying, yeah, but you've got to be realistic some point. There's got to be some grounding. So that's kind of how like the transition from those two is like Aquarius is sort of saying, gosh, Capricorn, you're just, oh, so stuck in the mud, and Aquarius is like, I want to think about the future and I want to envision for the future. So it really kind of I like thinking about it that way of how they work together. But because they're both ruled by Saturn, as you said, there nonetheless is a place where it must come into some kind of reality. It must come into something that can be built or made or
Right. Yeah,
thought. Yeah.
Aquarius is it's thinking about the future in a very serious way.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
I think people sometimes miss that, and it's hard for people who learned the modern rulerships to really, it took me a while to really
Mm.
understand, oh, yeah, and really connecting with people who have really strong Aquarius and seeing how serious they are about their, big visions.
Yeah. Yes. And I think, when it's coming to mind as you're talking too, like the other part about Aquarius is like, yeah, it's visionary, but it also very much deals with the reality that we are a collective. like there's a reality to that. Like you can document that, you can study it scientifically, you can like we are part of a population. And I think that's what Aquarius brings in. That's where the Saturn is like, you can't escape that reality of it. It's not, and both those signs, Capricorn and Aquarius, we're really moving into the sort of the collective part of the zodiac, like the group part, where you're not just thinking about me and my things. You're thinking about your impact on society, your visions for society. So I think, and it brings in that community piece too. So yeah. All right. Uh, we've kind of talked about that enough, probably. But I think the point of this is that not only do we have the sun moving from Capricorn to Aquarius, but we have all of the faster moving inner planets. So you've got, Mars is making that transition, Venus is, Mercury is, they're all doing it, and the sun. So in total, you have these four planetary bodies in Capricorn. And we'll get into this in a minute. They're going to oppose Jupiter, and then they're all going to move into Aquarius and connect with Pluto. So that's what this video really is about.
Yeah. So
So
it really
yeah.
is. It's about this serious process that's going on, and then we are given this view of our own personal vulnerability
Mm,
and our own necessity to open our hearts. And
mhm,
then we move into Aquarius, which brings us into this wider view of the collective, this wider view of the future, where
mhm.
we have to face this power, this
Yeah.
empowerment, and we have
Mhm.
to bring our heart with us. I think that's the
Yeah.
whole. There, the video's done.
All right, good. All right, thanks everybody. No. Yeah, and the other kind of just a couple other little notes that I'm just going to mention is the fact that all of those inner planets, and yes, I know the sun is the star, but we're just calling it planets from the astrology sense. They're all jockeying for position. They start out in one order where it's like Mars, Sun, Venus, Mercury. By the end of the month, it's completely reversed. It's, Mercury is first, then Venus, then Sun and Mars. And so that just brings in this like jockeying for position, and it just brings a subtly different flavor into the order of things. So that's just something else just to mention. It's kind of fascinating to think about that. And different planets are in different places, like and different conditions, depending on that order and depending on what sign they're in. So it's kind of a funny, there's a little bit of movement that is maybe not readily obvious, unless you're a real astro geek like myself.
I was
Um,
just going to say that. This is the geeky part of the
that's
conversation.
just the geeky part. And then the other thing I want to say is what's fascinating to me, and we talked about this briefly, is that there's a lot of folks out there that I think fit into the millennial generation that are for sure being activated by this, because that millennial generation had a group of planets in Capricorn. It had Cancer, Jupiter in Cancer as well. And so this is like a little bit of a reiteration of that pattern in a funny way. So if you're in that generation, um, pay particular attention, and of course, if you're a person with planets in Capricorn, Cancer, Aquarius. So yeah,
Yeah, a lot of those. My son has that Jupiter in Cancer and all those Capricorn planets,
yeah,
and it is, yeah, interesting. People around that age, 35, 36, 34 in there. It's pretty
yeah,
interesting how this pattern is kind of repeating.
yeah, agreed. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So okay. Well, we just want to show you the calendar real quick,
Okay.
just to show you the dates of what we're talking about. And
And if you want to take a
yes.
screenshot of that, that gives you all the information for the month of January.
Mm, yes, so essentially what we're talking about is a period of time that starts on January 9th. Um, Are you going to be our annotation queen there?
For some
Queen?
reason, I can't find the annotation tool. Where did it go?
Sometimes they hide. I
It's
really never
hiding
know
on me,
why.
so I don't think I can do it. That's weird.
All right, let's see.
I've
Well,
never had to do that before.
I can do some little shapes here. So we're talking
Oh,
about,
sorry.
that's right. So this period of time, I'm kind of going in this little green color. It's not very visible, but too bad.
Here.
Open your eyes. Um, and if you, so this period of time from the 9th through the 14th, see if I can make things thicker. But anyway, is really what we're talking about here, for the first part. for the first part where everybody opposes Jupiter. So you've got Venus opposed Jupiter, Sun opposed Jupiter, Mars opposed Jupiter. So this weekend is interesting. And then the final one is the 14th. You have Mercury doing it. So this is the time of really opening the heart. This is the time of getting in touch with Cancer qualities. So, tenderness, protection as well, like that care for vulnerability. What needs to happen? Like what boundaries do you need to set for vulnerability to emerge is going to be some of those keynotes with the planets in Capricorn, and then they're coming up against Jupiter and Cancer. So my key phrase for that time is emotional integrity. So that's kind of what I was thinking about. I can make it thicker. There we go. Lori, do you have anything to add
It's
about that
just
time?
so strange. That tool completely disappeared on me.
Yeah,
Can't
it's
find it.
okay.
Anyway, I'll stop looking.
Yeah. The other thing I'll just add about this period of time is I just want to point your attention at the fact that we're in the waning half of the moon cycle here. So that implies this is a very internal process. We're already dealing with Cancer, which is going to be internal, and even Capricorn as well. But it's in the dark moon, it's like you're nourishing the soil. You're putting nutrients into the soil, emotional nutrients, to nourish the emotional aspects of being human. So that's that bit.
Mhm.
And whoops, sorry about that. Wait, I'm coming back. Sorry, a little
Boy, we're
computer.
having technical difficulties
We
today.
are where there it is. Okay.
No,
All
good.
right. Sorry about that, folks. That's such is life. Okay, so and then the second part of time is let's see, Lori, you want to talk a bit more about that or
I got totally lost on this annotation tool. So the
okay.
second period of time is when all the planets start conjuncting Pluto, right? So
Mm-hmm.
first we've got that opposition. So we'll talk about that for each rising sign, and then we'll go on to looking at how all of those planets then go and conjunct Pluto between the 19th and the 27th. So
There we
that's,
go.
and a lot of that I think is, we've all had Pluto moved into Aquarius, what, in the spring of 2023. Pluto
Mm-hmm.
moves so slowly, even though that looks like, oh, that was a long time ago. We are still in the very, very beginning phases of the transformation that Pluto is bringing to that area of our individual lives. And
Mm-hmm.
this period of time, as first these planets open up our heart with that connection with Jupiter, then they come into that area where Pluto already is, and it's like, okay, bring your heart here
Mm,
and allow your open heart, your vulnerability to lead you into a more empowered state in this area of your life.
nice. Yeah, but it's a pretty cool period of time.
I'm excited
And
about it.
And just, just for the astrology, you have Venus entering Aquarius on January 17th. And then you have the new moon on the 18th. So just remember, like the moon cycles, I think, as being the backdrop of energy. And now we're in a new moon. So now it's time for things to start to grow and move forward. So you've put these nutrients in the soil with the opposition to Jupiter in Cancer, that nourishing sign, that water sign that's making sure there's enough sort of love in the soil for the next thing to grow. And
Mm.
so then when you plant that seed at the new moon in Capricorn, and then the sun enters Aquarius the very next day and Venus conjuncts Pluto, you're moving into that part where you are really moving into the empowerment part and you're bringing your emotions forwards into that. So that's kind of the gist. And then it continues where the sun conjuncts Pluto on the 23rd. And I think I missed one in there. Mercury is conjunct on the 22nd, and then the final one is the 27th with Mars. So you have that same pattern, but now you see that different order emerging.
Right, right.
And so that is, which is not really necessarily that relevant, but you can enjoy that if you want to.
Yeah, I think this is going to be,
Yeah,
I am really excited about this month. I think there's
yeah,
just so much that we can work with.
yeah. I
And
don't
in
know,
some
like
ways it's simple. It's like just a 1-2 punch.
yeah, it's like use that period of time to get in touch with your feelings, get in touch with your heart, understand self-care, look at who needs care, like really just delving into that and then moving into the empowerment phase, bringing the heart with you. So
Yeah.
really it's
Yeah.
the power of the heart is kind of what we're saying here. So
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
yeah, anything else
Nope.
about this time? All right, so I think we're going to move into the individual impacts here. So let me just move us to Aries rising. Okay.
Okay, so let's talk about this. If you've got Aries rising, well, the focus starts up in your 10th house where you have Capricorn. The 10th house is the area of our lives that is the most visible. It's the area of our lives that holds our, yeah, generally our career path, our social reputation. It's where we show up in the outer world. And
Mm,
for anyone with Aries rising, this is a very serious place for us. We really want to be responsible and do the work required in this area. So this is where, as the for the bulk of the month, these planets are moving through that area and they are opposing Jupiter between the 10th and the 14th. So during that period of time, there is an opening. I think of it like a door opens, and you really want to look at what home and family means to you. Look at who in your home and family needs love and protection and who you can receive that from and give that to. So there's a real need to not just hunker down in the hard work of your career, but allow that space to be open enough to see what's needed on the reverse side in your home and family. Open your heart
mm,
and, yeah, protect those people that you love. And then all the planets start bumping into Aquarius, where Pluto has already been doing a big job of rearranging your life in this area. And now you're going to bring your open heart there. Where's there?
mm.
I'm going to
Yeah,
turn it
so
over to you.
Pluto is in Aquarius in your 11th house. So this is really this changeover that's happening regarding your community. So probably, as just as Lori said, since 2023, there's been some the slow moving changing of the gears in this part of your life. You may suddenly find yourself in connection with a different group of people. You might be going to some sort of like classes in your community, or you might be, just connecting with other people in a new way. So some shift that's happening here, and having all those planets move into Aquarius and connect with Pluto, having recently bathed in the waters of, tender loving care, there's a tremendous amount of empowerment for you here as those planets connect with Pluto. And so the whole message is bring that tenderness that you have, that you really feel about those that you live with, those in your family, and incorporate that tenderness into that larger, kind of more social space of communities, recognizing that everybody has some their own story, their own life, their own loved ones in their life. And so you're kind of bringing that tenderness into the community. So it's not just going into the community with this intellectual need, it's going in with the full gamut of these feelings, and this desire to connect with people emotionally. That is really so powerful and really what January is all about, in my mind. So, yeah.
So, yeah, you're really developing this emotional integrity, this emotional intelligence, and bringing it into the powerful changes that are happening in your community.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
And, one of the things that's interesting about the 11th house is I think of it so much as the community that supports us.
Mm-hmm.
The community that we allow to support us. And sometimes that's really hard. A lot of people have a much easier time giving love than receiving it. And if you go into this powerful space of change in the community and allow yourself to give and receive, you've got a lot more ability to transform that area
Nice.
and
Yeah.
transform your ability to let yourself be supported.
Yes, and let yourself be vulnerable in groups. And like, I love the way these kind of bring these two sort of unusual houses in your life together. So in this case, for you, there is rising, it's your intimate, private, family life, and figuring out how to fold those feelings into this much more public community space and really just bring your mindset to a new way of looking at your community, and a new way of allowing, just as Lori, you're saying, allowing that community to hold you. I think it's pretty cool. I like
It
these. They're
is
fun.
really cool because those two signs, Cancer and Aquarius, have nothing in common. And they
Yeah.
don't, in general, work together real well. But this really allows us a path to bring that
Mhm.
heart into that more intellectual
Yeah.
space of community for those of you that have Aries rising. That space of community is generally a pretty intellectual area. But at
Yeah.
this point, you really have this opportunity to bring your vulnerability and your heart there.
Nice. Yeah.
I love this.
Yeah, it's pretty, I mean, it's kind of cool too, it just seeing the inner workings of astrology being lit up this way, the faster moving planets pinging stuff and kind of drawing these slower moving things together. So,
Yeah, yeah.
all right, ready?
Ready.
Taurus rising. All right, so those of you with Taurus rising, well, let's talk about this January for you. So first of all, let's start with the idea that the sun is up here in your ninth house. For most of January, it is in Capricorn. So for you, what the sun is illuminating is this part of yourself that is really the accumulation of all of your experiences. So the accumulation of your education, your travel experiences, the teachers that you've had, those sorts of things, and illuminating the accumulation of that. And it really kind of all boils into your overall worldview and your wisdom. So it's a great house, and it's nice to have the sun up there really warming it up because you also are very serious about this area because you have Capricorn here. So there's a real seriousness about how I mean, you take your worldview very, very seriously and you expect a lot of integrity here.
Mhm.
That would be another way to think of it. But that's what the sun's illuminating, and the other planets that are in Capricorn. And then, between the dates of January 10th through 14th, somewhere around there, you have all of those planets opposing Jupiter. So this brings in awareness. The opposition is awareness, and it's awareness of the feelings that drive this worldview as well. It's awareness of these emotions and being emotionally connected as part of your worldview. Because it could be easy too for your worldview to be kind of dry and just too a little bit too serious and not very warm and fuzzy, we'll say. But having this Jupiter opposition really brings in this tenderness. It brings in your connection to your intuition and into your emotions. And the third house is the different topics. It could be that your connection with your siblings is where you can feel that tenderness. It could be that you really love your neighborhood and the place where you live, your locale, and that brings up these feelings of wanting to be tender and protective. And it also could just be your voice, like simply the way that you talk to people, bringing this more emotional connection to the way that you talk to people. So that those are the topics that start getting pinged as those planets oppose Jupiter during that dark moon. And then after that, everything starts moving into Aquarius. And I'm going to leave that to Lori to kind of bandy about with that.
Before I do that,
Mhm.
as you were talking about this, I was just thinking about someone with this seriousness in their worldview and like,
Yeah.
and yet you look out your window in your neighborhood and you see ice taking your neighbors away.
Mhm.
That's what I was imagining, how you open your heart when you see how these bigger forces in the world are impacting your neighbors, your siblings, the
Mhm.
people that, yeah, are near. Anyway, that's what was coming into my mind, not to bring politics too
No,
heavy
that's
in
good.
here, but
No, it
that's,
grounds it in what we're dealing with, right?
yeah,
So yeah.
yeah. So then your heart is open. I mean, from this idea, like you see something happening in your neighborhood that just cracks your heart open.
Mhm.
And then when these planets go into the 10th house and start pinging on that Pluto, Pluto moved into your 10th house a while back, actually the spring of 2023. So there's been a lot of powerful changes in your career or your social reputation. This very, public area of your life has been under a lot of change. And now what is happening here is as these planets go in there, they are holding that open heart. This is what we want to really think about. During that time when with the Jupiter opposition between the 10th and the 14th, you allow your heart to open. You see where you really need to protect your neighbors or love your neighbors or whatever it is. And now, as these planets go in here, that open heart is empowering you to make a difference in the bigger world or to, yes, something that some powerful piece that needs to be cracked open in
Yeah.
your outer world.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, it's good to think about, isn't it? Like to think about just really getting in that heart space first. And then we have this opportunity for empowerment. And for you with Taurus rising, it's the, that professional reputation, the
Yeah.
social reputation, how you show up in the public persona, really.
How is the fact that your heart just cracked open going to support the power in your career?
Yeah, and again, like we were
Oh,
remarking on just like how these configurations bring in these two interesting places of your life. So, connecting the third house and the 10th house, this one's pretty easy. It's like your voice and how you want to use it in your professional and most public way. So, really is folding those together. But I like that. It's fun to kind of talk about these areas that don't have a natural congruence, but yet you can see the connection
yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
fascinating, isn't it? I love it.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so we're moving to Gemini rising.
Okay. So for those of you who have Gemini rising, this January is starting out with all of these planets that we've been talking about, this whole grouping of Mars, Mercury, Venus, the Sun, all moving through Capricorn. And they are moving through your eighth house. So this month really starts with a lot of focus in how you navigate the deeper levels of your relationships, how you navigate your own boundaries in relationship, how you navigate those deeper, more challenging levels of relationships. You're pretty serious about it. You're pretty, hard and clear probably about your boundaries. I mean, yeah, there's lots of variations there, but there's a way in which this is a very serious area of your life. So as you are kind of processing your own ability to set boundaries, your own needs in navigating these deep places, there is that period of time between January 10th and the 14th when a door opens between that hard work of navigating boundaries and your own values, your true values, which are a lot softer. There's a way in which I get stuck here for some reason. I get stuck on this opposition. Jenny, help me out.
Okay, yeah, no, it's fair enough. No, I think you're totally headed in the right direction, though. It's like I think the second house where Jupiter is. And actually, I really like what you're starting to say, like that you may appear to be a bit harsh with boundaries with other people because you've got Capricorn in the eighth house, but actually, there's this tenderness that underlies it that where one of your values, which is the second house, is actually this compassionate tenderness that maybe isn't always visible to other people, and that this period of time is going to enable you to get radically compassionate for yourself and therefore allowing that to be seen by other people, like showing that vulnerability to other people that will actually, believe it or not, make your boundaries way more effective
Right.
because they're going to bring in this kindness and this tenderness, right?
Right. One of the things that I keep thinking, looking at it, is if you've got this placement and you've got to set hard, clear boundaries with people during this time, go spend some money on them. You know, like
Mm,
that second house, my values and resources, money resources. One of the ways that you can tap in is to buy a gift.
yeah.
Touch into your
Yeah.
heart in that way.
You're making me think of, I know someone with this who's a teacher, and they run a tight ship in the classroom. The classroom management's tight, but they bring brownies
Right.
to their kids,
And that's
and the kids
exactly,
love
yeah.
it. They love the
And
brownies.
that the fact that they do that enables the boundaries to be accepted by other people.
Yeah,
If it was
exactly.
just hard, cold boundaries,
Hmm.
people are going to just dislike this teacher.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
the brownies, yeah, I think there is really an important piece there. So
Yeah.
once this process of opening the heart, giving the gifts, allowing yourself to do that, to set the boundaries, not just with hard, cold reality, but with an open heart, then
Mm,
all the planets ping into Aquarius, really enabling, really bringing the heart into the powerful change that's happening in the world view.
mm, hmm.
I'm going
Yeah.
to let you go a little more with that.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. So we talked about the transition from Capricorn to Aquarius, where you're really bringing in more of an imaginative intellect. And then the trick is because you've just had these oppositions to Cancer, Jupiter and Cancer. The trick is to bring the feelings with you into the worldview so that you don't lose touch with the importance of those feelings. As you look
Right.
around you and you have this sort of philosophy of life. That with Pluto there is being enormously empowered, and the big thing here is that we want you to, anybody with Gemini rising to take advantage of the empowerment of Pluto, but do it with your full heart. The heart stays open. You don't close it to do the Pluto part. You keep it open and you fold that into your attitude, your critical thinking, the way you view all the things around you, and that is where the empowerment comes in. And the real meaning of the ninth house to me is wisdom, but you
Mhm.
gotta you don't just walk into that. You've got to have done the work. And in this case, we're talking about the work of staying in touch with feelings, understanding the vulnerability of yourself and other people, understanding that all humans have vulnerability, and that becomes part of the empowerment, that you have so much to offer.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And that ninth
mm,
house, just, on a practical level, that ninth house can have a lot to do with education or travel and those kind of things, because those are
mm,
where we develop and, find our wisdom is through all those experiences that life brings to us. So,
mm-hmm,
yeah, any way in which you are learning something new or traveling, discovering new ways of viewing and understanding the
yeah.
world, being sure that you're not just falling down cold rabbit holes of intellect, but bringing this open-heartedness with you.
Yeah, because it's pretty easy to be kind of icy about other people without the backing of the emotions. Like it's pretty easy to be very separating with
Yeah.
Aquarius and alienating, either alienating yourself or alienating other people and doing the otherism. I mean, this is otherism, and I love the other thing it's so cool is bringing the second house and the ninth house together into a meaningful way. And here it's like we've talked a lot about sort of this the self-love and the values, but also there's a piece about money here with the second house. So it's kind of like bringing in the topics of your true understanding of self-worth and love, but also of your financial choices, and then how do those impact your wisdom or your worldview, or what teachers do you need to help you understand those things. Kind of it links those two together, and
Yeah.
like really links the self-worth, the life philosophy together, which is interesting. So
Yeah.
anyway,
So yeah, give some money to a cause you believe in.
yes, so I like that. And that's an act of resistance.
Right.
So
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that.
okay.
Okay.
Let's move on to Cancer rising. All right, so those of you who have Cancer rising, let's just start with the movement of the sun and the planets, and how for most of January, a lot of those things are in Capricorn. So for most of January, we have a big focus on your seventh house. which is the house of partnerships. And put simply, the first house is you, and the seventh house is other people. So we're really, the focus here becomes, onto other people. So your partnerships, yes, it can be your marriage, your partner, so on, but also, again, anything like business partners. And I also just generally think about any one-on-one interaction you're having with somebody is a first house, seventh house experience. So that's where the focus is. You have Capricorn here, which implies that you are very serious about these partnerships. And that also, you could be potentially a bit heavy-handed here with your partnerships, like maybe taking a little bit overboard about the seriousness and, maybe being a bit, I don't know, wooden or rigid here. That could kind of happen. And what I really like is that then you have these oppositions to Jupiter. So now you're bringing in the other side of yourself, which is there's a very emotional side to a Cancer rising person. And part of your whole path is around intuition and feelings and really working with those feelings. So this time period between January 10th and 14th really gives you an amazing opportunity to reflect on who you are as an emotional being. What gifts do you offer other people through your vulnerability, which is, I can assure you, not easy sometimes. When you walk around with your emotions on your sleeve, things can be a little rocky at times. And so this really gives you the, I don't know, a way to view it differently and get in touch with those feelings. And it is so important to this larger process as once those planets start to move into Aquarius, they will connect with Pluto. But I'll pause there. Laurie, what do you want to add to this scene here that we're painting?
It is really interesting just to think about all these planets going through Capricorn, and there's all this seriousness around relationship. And then during that time between the 10th and the 14th, it's like bring your own understanding of your own vulnerability to the relationship. There's
Mm,
a way in which, yeah, you're so sensitive with that Cancer rising. You're so sensitive. You understand your own tender vulnerability on a really deep level. So this really allows you to bring that, yeah, just to open that up. And
hmm
then we go into that eighth house. All those planets start pinging into the eighth house and touching in on Pluto, where Pluto has been teaching you for a couple of years now. Pluto's been just starting the process of transforming your understanding of how you navigate the deep, deep levels of connections with other people, how you set boundaries.
hmm
So with Aquarius there in your eighth house, there may be an inclination for you to be kind of cold about how you set boundaries with people. Well, right now, the big gift of this month of January, I think, really comes in with an understanding. You've been working on this area for a couple of years, it's been developing, and now you have this opportunity to really bring your own understanding of your own vulnerability and sensitivity to the path of how you connect, how you set boundaries. So it's going to really allow your boundaries to hold more tenderness.
mm,
This place where you're developing power,
hmm
empowerment, where you're really being empowered to set boundaries and really think about it. Where do setting clear, powerful boundaries, where does that support your life? And
hmm
how do you need to bring your own understanding of self-protection and sensitivity to that process?
Yeah, and I've been saying with all of these, I really like how it brings together these funny
Love it.
house positions together.
Uh-huh.
And I really like this one. Of course, this one is mine too. And it just makes so much sense. It's bringing together the first house, which in a nutshell is the self.
Right.
And as a Cancer rising person, as you've said, there's a sensitivity. There's a lot of, there could easily be a struggle with setting boundaries. And here you have this amazing opportunity to tap that natural Aquarian ability to set objective boundaries that can help give you a bit of space. And it's that whole dance of doing both. It's the whole dance of holding the Cancer space and the emotions, and then allowing there to be these necessary boundaries. And it's funny because we talk about boundaries all the time, and I just have this whole thing about boundaries that they are organic. There's an art to spinning boundaries. It's not just a thing that you do and you're done. There's a weaving, there's a necessary, some people can cross one boundary but not another. Other people you need more protection in this place, but they can come here. There's a dance and they're
And
different
that's
with
where the
everybody.
ritual comes in,
Exactly,
right?
exactly. So, so this is how you use your rituals to support yourself as a Cancer person moving through the world. And this period of time is really enabling you to see that and learn how to use it better.
Yeah.
So, and bringing the heart, into that. So, anyway,
I love January. I'm excited.
all right, let's go to Leo rising.
Okay, so if you have Leo rising, all of this season, we start out for the bulk of the season, the inner planets, along with the sun, Mercury, Venus, and Mars, are all moving through Capricorn. For you, that brings the attention into the sixth house. So there's a lot of focus on just how you function on your day-to-day level, how you take care of your physical body, how you just function day to day, your lifestyle choices. That's where the focus is. And for
Mhm.
anyone with Leo rising, this is an area that's taken very seriously. Your lifestyle choices are a serious process. You can become kind of rigid in those areas. Wherever Capricorn is a place where we work hard. It's also a place where we can be very rigid. What is one of the great gifts of this particular January 2026 is that period of time between January 10th and the 14th when all of these planets, all of these quick moving planets open up a gateway to with that opposition to Jupiter. So it's really opening our ability to, this area where we can be kind of rigid. It's opening us up in some very internal way. There's some way that we have access to our deepest hidden resources of tenderness and love and self-protection or protection of others. So as we are focusing on this hard work of setting, the daily routines in a certain way, it's like, oh, but I've got to allow and open up to this space of inner love. And
Mm.
that really provides us with, yeah, just a connection to our heart. And then as the planets go from that opposition into Aquarius, each of those planets, one by one, enters Aquarius, bringing our attention into our most significant partnerships, whether that be a spouse or a super close friendship or a business partner, those one-on-one kind of equal relationships. Our attention is going there. This is an area where, for a few years now, there's been profound changes happening in this area. For anyone with Leo rising, Pluto's entrance into that house has really been pushing a big change and a need to understand the power of partnership. So,
Mm.
as each of these planets pings that Pluto, what is that going to bring into the equation, Jenny?
I think it's just really revealing just how important those partnerships are. And again, there's these different kinds of partnerships, but there's so much that can happen, so much magic that can happen in partnerships. And I think it's really opening your eyes to that. And it might be, you have Aquarius here, it might be completely unconventional.
Mm.
This might be a completely unconventional way of handling those partnerships. But what is clear, no matter what that is you are learning to bring the emotions much more deeply into that space, because the trouble with having Aquarius on the seventh house can be that it's alienating. There can be a separation that happens, a sense of like almost like a gulf separating people. And sometimes that can be useful when you need it, but it also can feel difficult. It's not an easy placement. And so this bringing in Cancer, Jupiter in Cancer, and the things you're learning ahead of time really allows you to soften into the emotional layers of those partnerships. And it brings in a connectivity that you wouldn't have otherwise. And so I think it's just this almost like an intangible process of adding layers
Yeah.
to the partnerships. I think it's really interesting. And I like the 6th and the 12th together too, because it sort of brings the routines alive that really are supporting you. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really allowing, it's really important to hold on to, if we're aware of this ahead of time, it really is allowing a new kind of energy to come into the partnerships.
Yeah.
To really
Mhm.
allow the heart to stay open, even in this kind of intellectual understanding of partnerships.
Yeah.
But it's
No.
really bringing the heart in there. And it's an adjustment.
Mhm.
That's the whole thing, right? With the connection between the 12th house and the seventh house, an adjustment has to be made. And the adjustment here is keep the heart open.
Yeah.
Really
Um,
allow love and connection into those relationships in a way that you might not tend to.
yeah. Well,
Hmm.
I was just going to comment too that it's pretty difficult having Cancer in the 12th house, because we're talking about your private emotions anyway, and then they're really elusive in the 12th house. They're tucked away, they're behind the scenes, they're somehow hard to access. And I do actually know a couple folks who not only have this but have a moon in Cancer there too. And I just think about that, like how hard it is to extract the feelings, because they're submerged. They're really tucked away from view. So it means that it's potentially pretty easy to get stuck in that space of feeling separate in the partnership.
Mhm.
And what this does is it gives you an evolutionary potential to do this in a new way,
Uh-huh.
as a Leo rising person. And that's what this astrology is all about, is like, how do you learn from these things and allow them to move you forwards into this
Right.
powerful place where Pluto now is.
Yeah. Yeah, because your partnerships are in a big state of change.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, that's
Beautiful.
cool. I like this one. All right. So we're going to move on to Virgo rising now.
I'm
Um,
just loving January.
I know it's fun to talk about it this way.
Yeah.
I always enjoy getting to talk with you, Lori, about this.
Yes.
Um, all right. So here we have Virgo, and let's talk about this January, essentially, for Virgo rising. So what we have first is that the sun, along with its other cohorts of Mars and Venus and Mercury, they're all together in a glut, and they're all in Capricorn. And so this is really bringing the attention to your fifth house. Now, the fifth house is really the house where you give love, where you give of yourself. That just thinking about that idea of like, where do you pour yourself into something because you love doing it, and you would just do it all the time because it really is something that is very satisfying to you, especially with Capricorn there. So that's where the attention is during the sun being Capricorn, is this fifth house. And it's always a funny, incongruent thing to have Capricorn in the house of fun and pleasure and playfulness,
Perfectly
right?
natural.
I know it's just interesting. I mean, I think in a nutshell, it's like you are just really serious about your fun. You're serious about pleasure. You might be serious about taking risks. There's all those fifth house things. And
And you have a lot of fun working.
yes, that's another great one. So really you got to bring those two concepts together, the seriousness of Capricorn and then this like creative self, this creative expression, and this pouring out of love. So that's the first kind of part of this whole scene is you've got that. And then in the period of time between January 10th and 14th, or somewhere thereabouts, you have all those planets opposing Jupiter in Cancer. And that opposition really starts to put you in touch with your emotions. And for those of you with Virgo rising, that is very much about your community spaces, like those community places that just bring about these feelings for you, these feelings of tenderness, maybe these feelings of protection, like you want this community to be safe. It brings in all of those Cancerian traits into your 11th house. So I think it's a time to really allow those emotions to kind of flood into your creative space. And you're really learning how to do that dance of the giving of love and the receiving love and doing that in a very emotional way. And really letting your community up here in your 11th house support your emotions, support your vulnerability, allow you to be vulnerable in front of groups in public. I think that that's a lot of what's going on here. And infusing your creative life with something wholly new, a whole new level of emotionality into your creative life. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
really opening up to vulnerability in community.
Mm,
You know,
mm,
I think that's really important for this period of time is opening up, allowing your connection with community to hold your vulnerability.
mm.
And then all of those
Yeah.
planets that
Yeah.
are bumping into that opposition with Jupiter then move into Aquarius. And this, what you want to really consider is the importance of holding that vulnerability, holding that space of your open heart as all these planets go into your sixth house where Pluto is. So, over the last few years, there's been a profound change happening in your lifestyle choices, how you take care of yourself, how take care of your health, your day-to-day routines. There's a profound change has been going on in that area. You can be kind of cool there, kind of, in this high intellectual, rather objective state around what you're supposed to do in your day-to-day routines. And this is really, I think that one of the big statements here is you want to really bring your heart there, bring your vulnerability there, allow that openness that Jupiter allowed to infuse how you're doing your day-to-day routines, not
Nice.
just have them be this intellectual cold space, but to infuse that with the care and vulnerability that community can help supply for you.
Mm. I know this one that I
Mm.
like thinking about this one, like the idea of just this one is a real representation of how your community can support you through tough things.
Mm.
When you're going through something rough, which certainly the sixth house can be, it can be illness. It can be, times when you're just not up to par. It could be even be a time of a loss of your work, or something like that. And so it's not always bad or anything like that, but I really like that idea of this is when you lean into community to get the support you need, the community that really sees you. And again, that can be a variety of different groups of people. There's different ways you can look at that. I mean, it could be like your knitting group that you don't even know those people that well, but it's something that you do that's tangible, like six house-y, and then it turns out that those are the people that are there for you when, you have a big change in your routines.
Yeah.
So I think I like that. And you can think of that in a positive light too. Like maybe you're doing a new workout routine or you're changing your eating, and then you find those people in your community that do that too to help you stay on track. I mean,
Yeah. I
there's a
mean, the
lot of different
bottom
ways.
line is Pluto is transforming your lifestyle choices.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
and yeah, Pluto is transforming your lifestyle choices. And at this moment, you are really being offered the opportunity to fold into that, this open-hearted connection with community.
Hmm.
Because it's in, anyone with Virgo rising, it is in the space of the community support that that's where you can be most vulnerable. That's where you can allow yourself to be supported.
Mm,
Not
yes.
always easy.
No. And, we've really been remarking on how what's fun about these or interesting is that it brings together these parts of life that we don't always talk about together. In this case, the sixth and the 11th, so we're talking about, that connection between your community and your routines. And it's not that hard to think. I mean, I think a lot about like if the sixth house is, I can think of one person with this, where it's a lot about, getting out and doing snow sports, and be getting out in the woods and skiing and so on and so forth, and then needing a group of people to do that with,
Oh,
right?
my daughter just gave me snowshoes.
Oh, there you go. See? But I like that. It's fun to bring those two parts of life together. Not that they're incongruent in life, but just that in astrology, the sixth house and 11th house is not ever going to be a pair of houses you talk about that commonly,
Right.
necessarily, unless you have transits going on there or something, or this. So,
Right,
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Ready to move on?
Let's move on. So
Libra.
for folks who have Libra rising, the astrology of January 2026 starts out with a whole glut of planets, the Sun, Mercury, Mars, Venus, all in Capricorn. So the attention as we begin this month is in your fourth house. There's a lot going on in your home and family. That's where the focus is. Your home and family is an area for you that is very serious. You take it very seriously. You are, yeah, you take it seriously. I get tired of saying the word serious, but for some reason, it's the only one I have.
Switch
Uh,
it for solemn.
yeah, you're kind of solemn.
Sober.
It can be a very sobering area. You have a lot of high expectations of yourself in this area. So, at any rate, during this period of time, particularly during the period of time between January 10th and January 14th, all of these planets, as they're moving through and creating this focus in your home and family, all those planets oppose Jupiter. Jupiter is moving through your 10th house. For people with Libra rising, the 10th house is for everyone, the 10th house is the area of social reputation. It's how the world most sees us, career, those kind of things. This is where you have a lot of your vulnerability and your sensitivity shows up in your 10th house. At this point in time, you're really, you know, how's that work? It's like you really have to bring that sensitivity that you feel in the outer world into these home and family situations. It's really important for you to see where that opposite think of a way that that's going to play out, Jenny. How do
Well,
you
mm,
I'm
I,
stuck, I think, thinking about one particular person who I can see how the focus is
yeah.
fully in the fourth
Well,
house, but I don't see the where
well,
that
I
opening
think
comes.
another keyword for Capricorn is stabilization or stability. So I was thinking that you might feel kind of stifled by your family and like, ugh, like deadened by
Right,
it. And so you go to work and you have all these like more connected relationships with people and you're learning how to take some of it because it's not so stifling, and you're learning how to take some of those
right,
emotions
right.
and appreciate the
Yeah.
stability that your family gives you rather than getting hung up on how rigid it feels,
So,
right?
and yeah,
Like,
and if you don't have currently a career path going on, which is why I was getting stuck. I couldn't see it because of who I'm thinking of, but there's a real importance rather than, hunkering down with this family and you've got to get out into the world. You've got to
mhm,
get out into some sort of social areas that really do open your heart in order for you to bring that energy into the family so that you can then have it with you as all these planets move into the fifth house.
yeah. And
Right.
sometimes I was thinking about Cancer and
Right.
Capricorn too. Sometimes I think of Capricorn as being like dry, dusty soil. And then you add water to it and you have this nourishing, rich earth you can plant something in, right?
So yeah, anybody with Libra rising, you've got to make sure there's an open door. This is kind of after the holidays. I mean, we're still kind of, we're just in
Yeah.
this beginning process, but there's a clear focus on the family, but you've got to get out there and open up the door into a wider picture in order to add the water to that dry soil. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, it's like the aftermath, oh my God, my family's so
Yeah.
draining, like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
and then kind of being like, oh, well, now that I see how other people's families are, maybe mine's not so bad.
Right.
It's kind of,
Right.
kind of like the chats you have with people after the
Or
after.
you take your family members and bring them out into the world and open that up, and then you've got that to bring back home with you.
Yes. Because, yeah, that's the point, isn't it? Right. Like bringing that in there, like
Right,
not kind of saying, oh, my family, or my family's
right,
not that bad, but really just
right,
reconnecting with people,
right.
like emotionally.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
And for you, it's important to open up that more public piece in order to bring it forward.
Yeah.
And then we go into Aquarius. And that is, for anyone with Libra rising, there's been powerful changes happening in the area of how you give of yourself. The fifth
Mm.
house, how you show love, how you show up for other people or for yourself creatively. So there's a lot of powerful change going on there. And as these planets bump into Pluto between the 19th and the 27th, what do we need to bring with us?
Those feelings,
Right.
those mushy feelings need to come with you. So that, I mean, it really, I think of this one as like pouring your feelings into your creative pursuits, pouring your feelings. I do like to think about playing with little kids because they can really, it depends on the age and your preference, but for me, it's like I always crack up with the little toddlers running around, like or middle school, gritty middle school kids, but just bringing that idea of like the feelings into that play space and letting your heart be open. And then really understanding in a lot of ways the power of play, like the importance of playfulness, the importance of pleasure, the importance of joy. And I mean, having Pluto here, it can feel potentially heavy-handed, but I think the message is really about just seeing the power of joy. Because if we applied that to everybody around us, this world would be a different place. If everybody was in touch with joy and had the emotional layers in there and were able to stay connected to that, it would just completely dismantle the power structure because this is exactly the battle we're in, right? The battle we're in is to get into that feeling space and be in touch with our intuition, our feelings, and
Yeah.
allow that to be the source of power,
It's interesting to think about Aquarius in the fifth house, just that, the kind of intellect, the
Yeah.
objectivity, the intellect. These might be people who really are, yeah, they need to bring some warmth into how they show love.
Mm.
Because it's not
Hmm.
necessarily a natural thing with Aquarius there.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on all the other things in the chart, but it may be difficult for people with Aquarius in the fifth house. It's,
Mm.
to find, yeah, to get out of that objective intellectual space when it comes to giving love. And Pluto in there is definitely in this process, this long, slow process of empowering you to find a new way to give love, whether it's through creativity or to your children or whatever it is. But at this point, you are really tasked with this. You have this opportunity. You've opened your heart, you've got this opportunity to bring that to this transformative area of giving of yourself.
Hmm.
Mm,
Yeah, that's,
beautiful.
I kind of
Beautiful.
get the image of the mad scientist, the inventor,
Yeah.
inventing something and forgetting that you need to bring the heart space, the empathy, the feelings into it, or nobody's going to be interested in your invention, right? It's kind of things that. So,
I love that. I think that's,
all right.
I love these.
Great. I know it's fun. And isn't it fun? I do think this one, we've been commenting on the kind of the house positions, the fifth and the 10th. this just brings in the creativity into your professional life. This is the connection, is how does your work that you want to do for the world, your social contribution, whatever that is, how does that work with your creativity?
Right.
So that's fun to kind of play with. So think about that in your own life if you
Yeah.
have Libra rising. Okay.
Okay.
Right. Scorpio rising. Okay, so those of you who have Scorpio rising, let's talk about January. So, the beginning, we have the sun firmly in Capricorn, and along with the other planets of Mars, Venus, and Mercury, all in Capricorn, and therefore all really illuminating your third house. The third house is pretty dynamic. There's a lot of different pieces to the third house, and probably the quickest way to think about it is as your voice, the way you communicate, your point, really your point of view and the way you communicate. But you can also think about the other layers of those. You always want to think about that word proximity. So it's neighbors, your local environment, your local store, the person delivering your mail, like all of those kinds of things, the bus that you take, perhaps. That all of those kinds of things, a third house, plus your siblings, because they're in close proximity when you're a baby. So those are all the topics of the third house. And with the sun and those planets moving in here, those are the topics that are being illuminated. But because it's Capricorn, there's definitely this suggestion that there's a lot of like sort of seriousness about this part of your life, or a place. Maybe there's like, I don't know, a little bit of like authority issues going on here with Capricorn there. I mean, there's different ways that Capricorn can infuse that place, but let's just leave it at you take this part of your life very seriously. It's important to you. There's questions about integrity. Like you don't say anything until you're good and ready to know that you're conveying something with Scorpio rising and a Capricorn in your third house. Like this, you're going to be weighing how you speak, generally speaking. So that's kind of but that's kind of kind of the first part of it. Now, as those planets move further into Capricorn, they're going to oppose Jupiter up there in your ninth house. So this brings in a softness. This starts to highlight the more emotional layers of your life, and that the more emotional layers actually come from the ninth house, which is your worldview, your philosophy of things, your ability to think critically. And for those of you with Scorpio rising, this is a very intuitive, emotional place for you. You might have some pretty strong gut instincts about how you feel about, certain parts of society or what your overall worldview is. And you can also think about the ninth houses. It's the accumulation of experiences. So for you, it's the emotional experience of what you like, what your higher education was. Like, have you traveled in your life and what did you learn from those travels emotionally? Those kinds of things. What kind of tight bonds maybe have you had with teachers that really allowed you to open your heart? And so at this time, that's kind of what's on the table. This idea of opening your heart to those things, bringing in that really those emotional layers, that desire to care for people, the desire for tenderness, even a little bit of protection, and even the need to defend. And how does that work with your voice? Can you bring that tenderness into your voice? And before you speak, can you really lean into that? I think that's a lot of what this time period of January 10th through 14th is asking you to do. So,
Yeah, I
yeah.
think it's really about it's giving you this view that allows you to open your heart through serious conversations, through using your voice in a serious way, but really allowing the softer side of your big picture understanding to come through your voice. So it's
Mm.
really, in essence, it's opening your heart in this way and allowing it through your voice. And then all the planets start bumping into Aquarius, right? And that starts happening. And as we go forward, as soon as these planets go into Aquarius, pretty much, they start bumping into Pluto. Now, those of you with Scorpio rising, you've had some big changes, most likely big changes around home, around family configurations, something in that area, ancestry, big new awarenesses, whatever. There's been something in that area of home, family, ancestry, the land you live on. There's been big changes in that area that are really for the purpose of empowering your connection to your home, family, etc. So as these planets go in there and they all bump into Pluto, what we are really, the opportunity we're given here is for this empowerment of your connection to home and family to hold more heart than it has. You know, you've got Aquarius there. So there's a way in which home and family and ancestry can be kind of cool and intellectual area. But right now, this is allowing us to bring our open heart, bring our tenderness to our family, to our connection to home.
Mm, yeah. This is really about, I like what you said earlier on, and just the idea of like having this world view that's very like in tune with emotions, and then really letting that worldview back your voice and back your interactions with your family right now, because it's like you have it inherently in you, but this is a time of having that really like activated or illuminated in a new way. So it is an opportunity for that, because I mean you might also have, unusual origins that you haven't ever quite been able to grasp. And now you get to infuse that with what's the emotional story there? Like what was going on in
Mm.
those people's
Oh, I like that.
lives? Like that, it kind of brings in that curiosity, or but emotional curiosity of like, those people had relationships and people loved one another. And what was that? And that can actually provide a lot of healing, which also could be part of this picture.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I really like that. I like that idea too of the emotions and being behind your voice, like letting it come into your voice, letting your big picture understanding, exactly as you said, Lori,
Yeah.
be the thing that comes through your voice.
Yeah.
What a game changer that could be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love this month. I keep saying it. I love this month.
Yeah. It's fun to think about too, bringing in your home life and then your philosophy. It just, you don't always think about that, but it's really helpful right now. So anyway.
Yeah, because though, yeah, those two are so in such different spaces, the home, the family, and then the travel and education, but to bring the support of one to the other. It's really
Yeah.
interesting how this is working.
Yeah, especially in that order, right? Of the sort of more public outward thing, teaching you how to be more emotionally connected at home. I
Right.
mean, wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Awesome.
okay. Next up is Sagittarius.
Okay. So for folks with Sagittarius rising, this January 2026, we start the month, and the bulk of the month occurs with this glut of planets. The Sun, Mercury, Mars, Venus are all gathered in Capricorn. So, this is really highlighting and focusing on your second house. The second house is the house we think of as, you know, we can think of it as our money, our, physical,
Mm,
practical resources. But underneath all that, it's really our self-worth, our understanding of our value, our own personal values. And with Sagittarius rising, those of you with Sagittarius rising have a very serious perspective on these things. The worldview is very structured, very
mhm.
serious. And this is where your attention is as this month begins. So, maybe you spent too much money over the holidays and you're like kind of cranky about it and you're feeling a little stressed around your own values and your own money. But then between the period of the 10th and the 14th, Jupiter offers this new view, opens up this doorway with the opposition to all of these planets, one after another. They all oppose that Jupiter, which allows us to really see what the value was I'm going to stay with that idea of you spent too much money at Christmas time, but now you're seeing the value of the gifts you gave to others and the way in which, you know, the way in which you connect on these deep levels with other people. That Jupiter is going through your eighth house, which is those deep, deep levels of our connections with others. And in that area, you've got so much tenderness in how you deal with I mean, this is where you really show love and protection through navigating other people's deep levels. So I think you should not beat yourself up for spending too much money because I think it helped you in connecting with other people. I don't know why I got stuck on that idea, but that's really, it's a opening of the heart. It's an opening of, okay, my values are thus and so, and yet I've got this real deep understanding and love on these deep levels with other people. And this is opening up my heart through this period of time. And then the planets start moving into Aquarius, into your third house, where they're going to encounter Pluto. So, what's that storyline? And fill in the one that I just kind of butchered with this
You didn't
weird
butcher.
story.
There's so many different ways to look at these. So, and we
Yeah,
always encourage anyone who's listening, like, just think about what it is in your life that kind of matches the metaphor. Like, it doesn't have to be
right,
exactly the story, right?
right,
So that's
right.
what we're going for. But I think that really what is actually going on here with the Pluto connection is that you have this opportunity now to really see the empowerment of your voice, see how big and loud and important your voice is. But because of the connections to Jupiter, it brings in this tenderness. This isn't like a yay for me ego trip of my voice is so powerful. It's because you have a profound understanding of the emotional needs of other people, and that is actually why your voice is powerful because that's what you're bringing to it. Now, Pluto has been in your third house or in Aquarius since March of 2023. So you've been kind of seeing glimpses of this. You've had different ways that that's being pinged and lit up. So you're seeing different ways that that has shown up. But what's different is that right now, with these oppositions, you're really being asked to weave the emotional layer into the way you speak about things. And it's that ability to really, truly connect with people emotionally that allows you to bring that humanitarian aspect of your voice in. And those really come together to make your message a lot more appealing and relatable. And I think that, yeah, anyway, I'll stop there I have one other thing to say, but what do you think of that? Oh, do you have some other takes on that?
Well, I just, with Aquarius there in your third house, there may be a tendency to be kind of detached and a little bit cold with this powerful voice. And yeah,
Yeah.
exactly what you said. This is allowing you to bring the warmth of deep compassion and protection and love into your voice and softening that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, the other things I was thinking of is it's not a very easy placement. And I know a number of people with this rising sign and how it plays out, but it's not a very easy place to have Cancer in the eighth house because that means that there's a real ability to feel overly sensitive, or I shouldn't say overly because that sounds like a judgment, but being really sensitive around other people's baggage and other people's intensity. And there's a key skill for those folks with Sagittarius rising around setting the appropriate boundary because when you do, it means that you're very emotionally available for people with their difficulties. But it's not very easy because it's tender. The moon's tender. So, and the moon rules Cancer. So you're always working with that. But that's also why the trials and tribulations that you've had around how to manage your own emotions around other people's stuff is really giving you a unique perspective. Like, the right mix of, ooh, I need to protect and shield myself, yet also stay connected. And it's exactly that dance that is being highlighted with the planets hitting Pluto just after connecting with Jupiter. So it's an opportunity for those of you with Sagittarius rising to really weave that in. Um, And the other thing I was thinking was funny for me was thinking about Sagittarius is it's a fire sign, and I think all the fire signs have this desire to shine, but ultimately to shine for other people and offer some generosity. Yet Capricorn in the second house might be kind of stingy. So there's a little bit of a friction maybe between who you see yourself as a person walking around the world and then what your values are, because there's more of a, you're there's more of sort of a sobriety there about values and money, and yet you're this shiny Sagittarius person. So yeah, I'd be interested to see if people have that experience with
Yeah,
this sign. So,
that's interesting. All right.
and not that you're even stingy with money, but maybe, but stingy with yourself. Maybe you need to give yourself more grace and
Yeah,
yeah, a little
that
less.
is interesting. I like that.
So
Huh.
anyway, shall we move on to the next one?
Yes, let's move on.
All right, so Capricorn rising. So for those of you with Capricorn rising, we've been talking about the month of January. And as we start the month, we have several planets, including the sun, in Capricorn and therefore in your first house. So this means that there is a light being shown on you, you who you are as a self. And also, what is your path in life? Because the ascendant, the first house, can have something to say about your path. And in this case, your path is Capricorn. That means you have strategies. That means you have integrity. That means that you appear to be an authority even if you aren't. So you're learning how to work with that. Wow, I appear to have this authority, and maybe you certainly do in some cases. In other ways, you feel like you have imposter syndrome, but all of those things would be part, I think, of having Capricorn rising, and having these planets illuminate this area is going to just bring those topics up. What are your strategies? Where are you an expert? How do you dabble with expertise, and excellence? Those are all going to be Capricorn topics. And then all those planets that are in Capricorn are then going to oppose Jupiter in this period of time we have here, January 10th to the 14th, or thereabouts. And that's going to really bring in this much more kind of tender feeling aspect of yourself. And for you, you really get that when you have those one-on-one connections with people, whether that's your partner, even a business partner, but any like one-on-one connection, those connections really serve to bring out your emotional self. Well, you're really available for people on an emotional level, or hopefully you are. I suppose you might feel very protective there too. So there's a dance. But during those series of Jupiter oppositions, the idea is that you're really opening your heart to all of the feelings and the tenderness that you have for those people, and the desire to protect those people. That's really what is being brought in during those oppositions. And it's giving you an emotional depth in that way, which is going to be very helpful as all those planets then move into Aquarius and start connecting with Pluto. What do you think of that, Lori?
I think it always interests me that polarity between Capricorn and Cancer in the first and seventh house, a person who's so authoritative and serious about themselves, and yet in relationship is where they're so vulnerable and really need this tenderness. It's such an interesting process for people. But I think, yeah, I mean, everything you said, this is really opening you up to bringing that warmth and love and tenderness to yourself. And then as these planets all go into Aquarius, into your second house, joining with Pluto. Pluto's been there since spring of 2023, which is just a moment when it comes to the movement of Pluto because it moves so slowly. We're still in the beginning processes. But Pluto in your second house is really there to empower your self-worth and to empower you around how you work with your own deep values, whether that be around money, resources, but bottom line, your own self-worth. That's what is Pluto's job here is to empower you in this area. Right
Mm.
now, the great opportunity of January is that as Jupiter does its little dance with all the planets, providing them with this open heart and love, Now they all come in and they bring that to the conversation of empowering your values. With Aquarius
Mm.
here, your personal values and your relationship to your own money and resources can be pretty detached and kind of cool. So now this is just allowing love to come to the table. It's allowing you to really use your own tenderness to increase your self-worth.
Mm. Nice. Yeah, I know. It's interesting just thinking about having Capricorn and Aquarius on the first and second house because it really adds this gravitas, this weight, to the way you carry yourself and what other people tend to pick up on from you, and then this opportunity to just really nourish those places with this more watery, flowy piece, that you also innately have. And as we've mentioned, really comes up in these connections with people. But it's time to kind of weave those two things together. And I think when you do that, then you start walking around where you carry this gravitas with you, but now it's emotionally informed. And there's a lot of emotional integrity that you're bringing to that. And so it really kind of takes you out of being sort of dry and serious and into this much more flowing space where you can bond emotionally with people.
I think
Yeah.
that's, it's really important, people with Capricorn rising, not to let themselves be isolated from relationships.
Yes. Like super important.
Super
Yeah.
important.
Yeah. And I mean, it's fun to think about again, like that idea of how do you, I mean, it's fairly clear actually. How do you bring partnerships together with your self-worth? And it's like, wow, I mean, that's a pretty, you know how important that is. If you're feeling bad about yourself, it can come out in all kinds of not straightforward ways in your relationships, can really culminate in some sort of codependent type of feelings and how necessary it is to do that self-love piece. And this is an opportunity to do that in a new way so that you actually will show up in a more balanced way in your partnerships as well. So I like that, I like bringing those two together.
It's fascinating.
All
Okay.
right, Aquarius rising.
Let's talk about Aquarius rising. Okay, so for those of you who have Aquarius rising, we're talking about January 2026, and we start the month, and for the bulk of the month, we've got all the quicker moving planets, including the Sun, Mercury, Venus, and Mars, are all traveling through Capricorn. So for you, that is a dance that's going on in your 12th house. It's very much behind the scenes. I think of the 12th house as, it's the house of your unconscious. It's the house that holds the patterns of your psychological unconscious. It's also an area where, your spiritual understanding may be held in there. This is an area where you hold a lot of practical, determined seriousness. You are really serious about who you are behind the scenes, or you just close the door and ignore it altogether, depending on how you manage these things. But as this month gets underway, this is an area where there's a lot of focus. You're probably thinking a lot about these deep layers of your own unconscious, whether you want to or not. It's sort of what's on the table as this month begins. What occurs is between January 10th and the 14th, all of these planets, one at a time, oppose Jupiter. And that's really allowing, I think of it as opening a door to allow us to see where our emotional sensitivity can really inform our work in this behind the scenes area. So there's
Mm.
some way that our emotional connection to our day-to-day routines, how that can support us to soften our stance on our own understanding of what's behind the curtain.
Hmm.
For some reason, one of the things I think of the sixth house holds all the ideas of how we navigate our lifestyle. It's,
Mm.
how we feed ourselves, how we care for ourselves, how we, our health issues, all of those things. And it also, I just want to throw this out. I also think of the sixth house as being a place that holds our pets.
Hmm.
Because our pets, if we've got a cat or a dog, it's a huge part of our daily routines, right? So this is a place people with Aquarius rising show up with kind of a coolness and intellect, but when it comes to their day-to-day routines and their pets, that's where their emotions are so on the surface. So, yeah, if you're feeling kind of cold and in your own way, go get a kitten. It'll open your heart and prepare you for all these planets moving into Aquarius into the first house. What do you have to add?
I love that you brought the pets, and I've also extended that because absolutely you can totally see that. But also like spotting wildlife, like you see that hawk flying through the air, or so I've just like animals in general, like you see an animal that you didn't expect, or if you've seen a bear or a moose or something like that, like I've seen up here in Vermont, it's like, oh, and it really just brings this excitement, but also for me, yeah, like tenderness, like, oh, I want to, protect those animals too. So I love that you brought that up. It's perfect.
Mhm.
And I mean, I think, yeah, a lot of when we're really talking about this idea, like those of you who are Aquarius rising and Pluto has been in your first house since,
Mhm.
March of 2023, like you have been going through a big transformation. And part of that transformation is about the way you handle yourself, the way you move through the world. I mean, you have this opportunity to really be empowered and sort of show the way forward to community and collective consciousness and like all of those things. And Aquarius is such a funny sign. It's a quirky sign. It's unique. It's the got the archetype of the inventor. And I really like thinking about that and how that works with the Cancer in the sixth house. Like there's this need to run your lifestyle through your gut
Mhm.
instinct.
Mhm.
Like through your emotions, like trust your emotions. Like, if you're kind of uncertain of what to do, it's like, well, what does my, what do I feel like doing? And
Mhm.
it's like this radically different way of doing things compared to the rest of society. So it kind of works well with that Aquarius part. It's just the whole idea of like, but you want to be connected to those emotions and feel those feelings and be in them and bring them forwards and, allow them to inform you as you move through the world and bring those emotions that you kind of cultivate on the daily level into, your interactions with everybody, basically. So you're bringing the heart into the power, and that's really the whole subject that we're talking about is the power of the heart. Um, and this is an opportunity to figure out how to do that in a new way, to find out how you can do that differently. So I think this is cool. And I don't know. I like thinking about the sixth house and the first house together because sometimes the sixth house kind of gets a bad rap. Like, I don't know. I've heard other astrologers kind of be like, yawn, but I love the sixth house.
I
I
love
think
the
it's
sixth house too.
where the rubber meets the road. I mean, it's where you do all the practices to bring the things in and like, so doing the practices to let your feelings bubble up, and then allow that to, propel your path forwards is what this time is.
Yeah, so it's really
Yeah.
about bringing your open heart, that, allowing your heart to open, allowing you to really experience your feelings, and then bringing them into the process of what is transforming you.
Yeah. It's good. Use it wisely.
Use it wisely. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And Pisces rising. All right. So, those of you who have Pisces rising, let's have a little chat about January. So, in January, as we come into it, most of the smaller, quicker moving planets are in Capricorn. So, you've got the Sun, you've got Mars, Venus, Mercury, all in Capricorn together, and they are illuminating your 11th house. They're really pinging and lighting up your 11th house,
Mhm.
which is really your community. And I do like talking about community because it's one of those words that's sort of like cliche, like your community, but man, it holds so many different symbols. I mean, you can have a community of your marriage. You have a community of your family. You have a community of the classes you go to. You have a community of all of these. There's all different levels that you can consider that are groups, and you engage with those groups in different ways. And so I think that that's it's fun to think about that. And really with Capricorn there, community is a very important factor for you. It is a place where you find helps you set some ground rules, helps you get in touch with those, qualities of Capricorn, which is, stabilizing, like those kinds of things. So that's what's really, coming to your attention during the beginning of January, all of those things. And then they're going to oppose Jupiter in Cancer. And so you're really going to have this opportunity to bring forward the emotions. And I think in this case, I think right away with Cancer in the fifth house, I think about the tenderness that comes from well, there's lots of things like growing plants, like taking care of those little seedlings, taking care of children, but the more fun kind of elements of those and bringing the emotions and how important it is to nurture whether they're your creative projects or even a lover. I mean, all those things bring in nurturing and feeling when you're a Pisces rising person. So that's where you're getting in touch with your emotional self because the 11th house where you have community, it can be kind of dry and serious and maybe it could be a little flat and perhaps a bit rigid, and having the contact to Jupiter and Cancer really just it fluffs it up. It brings in some moisture, it brings in some
Mm.
connectivity. It really makes the soil more nourishing.
Mm.
So there's something about that for you, especially in that time period, January 10th through 14th, that's really going to enable you to bring new emotions into how you handle your communities. And maybe let you be more receptive to community because there's that whole key piece about community being the place that supports you. And so this is a time for you to be more receptive and let that happen. And you're doing that by getting in touch with the emotions that are coming about in your fifth house. So I think that's kind of the keynote is opening the heart to community.
Yeah.
So yeah, anyway, I feel like I just went on there for a bit. So Lori, do you want to add to that and talk about
Yeah,
the
well,
other
I love, just the what you were saying about allowing yourself to receive. Because
Mm,
with Capricorn in the 11th house, Cancer in the fifth house, you probably, with Pisces rising, it's probably a lot easier for you to give love than to receive love.
mm,
And yet, receiving is a place that is so important for you to learn about. And this opposition really opens up that, okay, I can open my tenderness and have it reflected through my ability to receive. So as you are kind of learning that and opening up your heart, and then all the planets proceed between the 19th and the 27th of January to move into Aquarius and bump up against Pluto. Pluto has been in your 12th house since spring of 2023. There's some profound process going on behind the scenes in your unconscious, some profound deep empowerment of your understanding of yourself, of your own inner patterns. And
mm.
as these planets go in there and connect with Pluto, they're kind of bringing that warmth and vulnerability and love to that process. So rather than this hard work of, I'm going to empower your deep understanding of yourself from uh, a perspective that might be a little cold and a little rough around the edges, this is really softening it and allowing you to really be more tender with yourself as this process is unfolding.
Yeah. Yeah, this one definitely, I was just thinking when you're talking, like that brings in the self-compassion,
Yeah.
because the 12th house is like a lot of times it's like the things we want to hide from other people. It's our foibles or our past, maybe even like shame and some difficult things like that. and it can really, and bringing compassion to those parts is exactly what enables you to kind of untie those knots of, in yoga you'd call them samskara, but like these places of, unhealed places essentially. So I
Yeah.
think it really
With
can
Aquarius
help a
there,
lot.
you can be kind of coldly self-judgmental,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think. And yeah,
yeah,
Jupiter right now, just the way this process, this pattern is going on, it's really allowing some warmth and open-heartedness into that area.
yeah.
I love that.
I know that's it. It's yeah, I like this. I mean, this is bringing the fifth and the 12th house together exactly. It's bringing that sense of play into this hidden behind the scenes area where maybe you tend to have quite a bit of judgment.
Yeah.
So I like that one
Yeah,
together.
play and open-heartedness. Love,
Mm.
self-love.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
just that, no problem.
No problem. Just, add a little
Um,
touch of self-love and we're all good.
no. Okay. Anything else you want to add about this one or I think
I don't
we're
think so. I think
yeah.
we are complete with that. And
Uh-huh.
so for those of you who are still with me, if with us, if you didn't watch the first video we did about January, which was just the general video, be sure to watch that now.
Okay, yeah. And give us any comments or feedback down below. And thanks for watching and thank you, Lori.
Thank you, Jenny. Bye.
Bye.